Welcome. Today I've got a really cool lock for you. This is a Bison Chain Key Padlock. I saw the Bison Chain Key on a video when I first started picking, and I've wanted one of these ever since. I was lucky enough to find this one, and so it's time to do a pick video. So the key, as you can see, is essentially a floppy chain, and you can see the bitting of the key. So essentially it's held within this sort of housing and injected into the core of the lock. Now the reason it has to be a chain is, if you can see down the keyway, it actually curves off to the right. So anything straight can't really go in there. A normal key couldn't work. But in this case, because it's a chain, it can sort of slip around that, look at that upside down. It can slip around those corners, and that allows the lock to work. As you can see, we've got a removable shackle there. Really a lovely made padlock. The form factor of it, I mean, it's beautifully machined. It's solid stainless steel. The form factor of it actually is very similar to this one, which is certainly not a cheap lock. You can even see the shackles themselves are pretty much the same design. The lock bodies are very, very similar. So that's quite interesting and a good note there. So yeah, Bison Chain Key Padlock. I was lucky enough to grab this one. It's locked so the shackle won't go in. Do need to be fairly careful with these keys. They are a little bit fragile. And you'll see they actually come with a sort of a blank metal piece that has the bitting on them. So that's what you would use to cut a new key, but I don't know where you'd ever find a blank, to be honest. I was lucky enough to get that one, and before it could actually arrive, I managed to get this one as well. So this one's a slightly different design. Same lock inside it, same sort of shackle system. In this case, you'll notice that the Bible in this one is oriented up here, whereas it seems in this one it sits up here. So that would explain the weird shape of this lock. In this case, we've got a sort of a plastic guard over the top of it that probably is removable, but these are really expensive and rare locks, and I don't really want to mess with it. As it is, we can gut this one, so we're going to put this one aside for the time being, and we're just going to pick this one and we'll gut it and have a look at what's inside it. So I'm just going to tilt the camera up a little bit so that I can get the vise in here. I'm using a different camera position obviously in this video, so sorry, I'm sort of working from directly behind the camera. Not the best angles, but it's the best way to show you these locks, I think. Right, now, as you can see, we've got a fairly deep sort of oval shaped recess to the keyway there, which is what this part of the key sort of sits in. The chain itself doesn't actually impart any torque onto the lock, onto the core. It's all done with the body of the key. So all the chain is doing is lifting the pins. So what I need to do is use a Z-bar here, and I'm going to push it most of the way in there to the point where I can actually grab enough of the keyway to put tension on. Now that puts me very close to the first pin, but it is what it is. Now, because of the curve of the keyway, we can't get a straight pick in there. As such, I'm using a 15 thousandths pick, which has got enough flex to be able to curve around those corners in the keyway. So let's get to picking. I'm using fairly light to medium tension. The big issue here is that because the pick is rubbing on the sides of the keyway, it really kills my feedback. So feeling what's going on is kind of difficult. I find that if I put the pick in right at the bottom of the keyway, it lets me sink it into the back, and then I can sort of lift it up through the warding. And you'll see there is significant warding in here. There we go. Right. There it is. So that was actually quite a long pick for this one. It's not really a difficult lock, but as I said, negotiating that keyway is a bit of a mungle. Let's pivot you back down. About to lose it out of the vise. So there's the pick lock. So that's our actuator. That just blocks a couple of ball bearings. There's one of the ball bearings. That's the screw for retention. So the other ball bearing is just sort of trapped in there. But it's a fairly simple system, but also completely foolproof. You know, the ball bearings can come into the core, allowing the shackle to come out. When they're turned this way, there's no way of doing it, so you can't shim the shackle there or anything like that. This is our core. I'm just going to lock it back up, and we'll get the C-clip off. Just like that. Come on, you bastard, get off. If I had a third hand, I'd be all good. Always on the videos. I could probably get this off in 30 seconds in a good situation. I'll find out later. Shot itself off at me somewhere. Anyway, C-clip's the least interesting part. Throw a shim in there because we've got some nasty sort of serration-y bits there. Okie dokie, so here's our core now. Key's coming out. We'll actually, while it's still populated, show you the key going in. Coming out. Now I want to carefully dump these pins out. I'm just going to do them all at once. You'll note that spot 1 there is actually a dimple, not a pin. That has a driver, well, a ball bearing in the driver position, and I think it's for centering the core. So effectively we've only really got 5 pins that we need to pick. And dump them all out like that. The reason being that this core is actually split, so will come apart. So the pins actually go something like that. They're all standard driver pins, key pins. There's really nothing special there. this is the bit that I do want to show you though. So this core is actually split, it's two pieces. This top piece has a couple of anti-drill pins in it. So just pop that down there. One of the anti-drill pins is in there and the other one is sitting just here. Put that over there. So here you can see the shape that the key needs to take. These are actually brass spacers, sort of. This is a cast part, and you can sort of see that it has the curvature for the key. While it's in this state, I might just try and inject the key so you can see how it works. I need to be very careful not to jar this. So there you can see the key snaking its way down the keyway, which I think is just fascinating. It's a clever idea, but obviously a 15,000th pick was enough to defeat it. So we'll take this all apart. What we have is a serrated brass cover plate there, and you can see the quite sharp serrations designed to catch anything that you jam down the keyway. I've got a thicker brass plate here. Ugh. That's actually upside down too. With just a couple of sort of catches on it, not exactly as sharply serrated. Another thin serrated one, and the same on this side. We've got a thick with a few catches, which I'll put those down here, and then a thin one with more serrations. And as you can see, serrations all the way up and down the bottom of the keyway there, and on the top. So it's really designed to try and trap you. Those little serrations stop you from being able to move in and out, and all of these sort of sandwich stacks create a sort of warding that makes it difficult to move up and down. Moving right along. First thing that's going to want to come out of here is the ball bearing for the centering. Now it's going to rock it out, so I'm just going to try and contain it. There it goes. So there's our ball bearing. It goes in spot 1 where there is no key pin, and then we can just get the normal drivers out. These are all standard, so no spooling, nothing special. With some security pins, this would actually be a fairly tricky lock, because really the keyway in its own right is a bit of a nightmare to negotiate. But realistically, there's no way of making this lock robust. It's always going to be a weak lock with a weak key. So really it's more of a novelty item than a high security lock. Arrange all of our pins a bit nicer. And we'll get the rest of our springs out. This is the spring for chamber 1. As you can see, it's a lot heavier gauge than the other springs. And there's our housing. The only weird thing about it is, I guess, the spacing of the drill holes for the pins. We'll grab you the key once again. So there you have it. That is the Bison Chain Key Padlock. Thanks for watching.